If you are reading this right now, stop scrolling for a second, because what you are about to discover will shock you, inspire you, and keep you glued to the very end. And before I dive into this unbelievable story, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss powerful true life stories like this one. Because trust me, after you hear what happened on that street when a group of arrogant bikers thought they could humiliate the wrong woman, you will believe in karma like never before. So here's how it all went down in one of the most jaw-dropping moments captured in recent years. And it all started on a hot summer afternoon in a busy downtown neighborhood where the roar of engines filled the streets as a notorious biker gang rolled in, their leather jackets flashing skull logos, their laughter echoing with the kind of cruel arrogance that made pedestrians cross the street just to avoid them. And among the people on that sidewalk was a young black woman named Aaliyah, strong-willed, graceful, and fearless, walking home from work with her head held high, unaware that her life was about to intersect with theirs in a way that would not only stun the crowd but also teach a lesson about respect, strength, and the hidden power of those who refuse to be broken. Because as she passed the gang, one of the bikers, a tall, heavily tattooed brute named Razor, decided to show off to his friends by mocking her stride and shouting insults that made the group howl with laughter. But when Aaliyah ignored them, her calm dignity only fueled his childish ego. And in a sudden, shocking move, Razor stepped off his bike, swaggered up to her, and before anyone could react, he lifted his hand and slapped her across the cheek so hard the sound echoed like a gunshot through the stunned street. And for 1 second everything froze. The crowd gasped. Aaliyah staggered slightly but didn't fall, her eyes wide not with fear but with a steady, dangerous fire. And then, 1 second later, before Razor could even smirk at his cruel act, he and his friends were on the ground hard, their bodies crashing against metal and asphalt in a blur that no one could fully process, because something had happened that none of them expected. And as the dust cleared, people saw that Razor and his gang had been flipped, slammed, and disarmed in a matter of seconds by forces they could not comprehend. Because Aaliyah was no ordinary woman, she was a martial arts expert trained since childhood by her late father who had been a military hand-to-hand combat instructor. And while she rarely revealed this skill, in that moment of violation and insult she unleashed it with precision, striking Razor with a lightning-fast counter that sent him sprawling, then using the momentum of the other bikers' attempts to attack to flip them over their own bikes like rag dolls, each movement a dance of controlled fury. And the crowd that had moments earlier been silent now erupted with gasps, shouts, and cheers as the gang of feared bikers lay moaning and defeated on the pavement, their tough guy image shattered in the blink of an eye. But that was only the beginning of this unbelievable tale. Because just as Aaliyah dusted off her hands and prepared to walk away, thinking the lesson was delivered, the leader of the gang, a hulking brute named Viper with a scar running down his face, roared in rage and pulled a concealed knife from his boot, charging at her with murderous intent. And again the crowd screamed, some covering their eyes in fear that she wouldn't survive this. But Aaliyah pivoted, sidestepped with flawless timing, and disarmed him with a swift kick that sent the blade clattering across the asphalt, then brought him down with a joint lock so painful that he howled like a wounded animal. And yet even as the police sirens wailed in the distance, signaling that backup was on the way, the story twisted again, because suddenly from the other end of the street came more bikers, reinforcements of the same gang, roaring in on their engines, furious at the sight of their brothers humiliated. And for a moment the crowd thought Aaliyah would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. But just as the mob closed in, another sound split the air. The commanding bark of trained dogs and the synchronized march of boots. Because from the shadows emerged a group of undercover officers who had been tracking this gang for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. And Aaliyah, it turned out, had unknowingly become the spark that triggered their long-planned takedown. And as the officers moved in with stunning efficiency, subduing the bikers who had terrorized the city for years, Aaliyah became the silent hero at the center of it all, standing tall with her cheeks still stinging but her spirit unbroken. And the bikers who had once laughed, mocked, and slapped her were now handcuffed, bleeding, and begging for mercy. But the twists didn't end there, because later, when the news spread and reporters swarmed the scene, digging for the full story, the truth emerged that Aaliyah had not just defended herself but had actually saved lives. Because those bikers had been planning something far darker that very day, a violent robbery that could have cost innocent lives. And her defiance had not only stopped their cruelty in the street but disrupted their entire plan, leading to arrests that shut down the gang's operations completely. And the footage of that slap and its aftermath went viral worldwide, sparking debates, admiration, and a tidal wave of support for Aaliyah. who remained humble, refusing interviews at first, until eventually she agreed to share her story, not to glorify violence but to remind people of the power of standing firm in the face of injustice. And as her story spread, offers poured in from martial arts schools, self-defense organizations, and even Hollywood studios who wanted to turn her incredible moment into a movie, but she chose instead to dedicate herself to teaching other women the skills to protect themselves, building a foundation in her father's name that trained thousands and inspired millions, proving that one slap, one cruel act of arrogance, had set into motion a chain of events that no one could have predicted. And yet, in the quiet of her own mind, Aaliyah often replayed that moment, the sting on her cheek, the look of shock on Razor's face as he hit the ground, and she knew it wasn't about revenge or humiliation, it was about reclaiming dignity, showing strength where others expected weakness, and teaching the world that underestimating the wrong person could lead to the downfall of even the most feared. And so the story of the bikers who thought they could slap a woman and walk away became a legend retold on countless platforms, a warning, a source of empowerment, and a living reminder that karma may not wait years to strike. It might arrive in a single second, with the sound of engines, the crack of a slap, and the thud of bullies hitting the ground harder than they ever imagined.